Yeah, so we already negotiated and agreed upon this agreement. Wasn't easy, and I know we heard from service workers talking about how they were relying on the increases that already took place and what effect that had into their lives. And the One Fair Wage Ordinance was already a huge success. Restaurants have been growing in the city of Chicago. Wages have been going up. Workers have been working. And we're very excited that the BACP has had great reports on those successes. And we're hopeful that this pause would be the end of the discussion and that we're not going to have to revisit this again in the future.
Christina, now the measure, did you want to respond to something that
I think that it is a wonderful idea that we're all negotiating and having these conversations. I think it is a human issue that we all need to talk about from every perspective and every facet. I'd like to thank the Alders, Burnett, Quinn, Villegas, and Nugent for all of their tireless work and efforts that we have here. Of course, they are doing a great job and trying to advocate for the ecosystem. We're talking not just about one group, we're talking about the ecosystem that we have here in the restaurant industry. And as for restaurants opening, we have a lot of restaurants opening, but we're also, the city of Chicago doesn't track. We've lost 500 businesses in the first half of this year. We've lost 2,100 jobs in 2025. So when we talk about businesses opening or licenses being renewed, first of all, every 2 years, I think the licenses are being renewed now, and the city isn't tracking like which businesses are closing. So although you have businesses opening, that's wonderful and great that people still have an American dream. I love that. My father was that. He started it 53 years ago. He's an American dream. He is an immigrant, and or he was, God bless him. But I love that. But the other reality is those new restaurants that are opening, how will they stay open if they are facing all of these economic difficulties as well?
So the measure would allow restaurants with between 3 and 21 employees. It gives them extra time to reach that 100% level. Do you think that runway, will that help smaller restaurants?
I think it does help smaller restaurants because if you start shifting this change immediately, the first thing that's going to happen is going to be cutbacks, layoffs, shuttering doors is worst case scenario, but you're going to have so many different, we're going to have cross training, whereas we've been around for 53 years. We've, waitresses that just waited tables are saying, I can't do the POS system. I don't know how to do it. I can only do this. And so to cross train, I have to take less hours. And, it breaks our hearts because we're there. They've known me since I was 16. So I look at that like, let's try and find where we can position them so that they don't lose the hours that they need. But honestly, if I have empty seats at my restaurants, I can't continue as a small business, and neither can other small businesses continue to do it if it keeps going up.
Richard, the phase out of the tipped minimum wage, it has been underway for a couple of years now. What are some of the benefits that tipped workers have started to experience?
Yeah, immediately workers were seeing raises, right? And what does that mean in the midst of an affordability crisis? We're hearing how restaurants are suffering, but imagine if you're a tipped wage worker, right? Making less than the minimum wage. And let's be frank, the minimum wage is too low to begin with. We should be talking about a livable wage, not just the least that we could pay workers, but what do workers really need to be able to survive on as a livable wage?
And to your point, I have to respectfully disagree in a sense that the employees right now are making an average of $29 an hour. I know our waitresses are doing very well with those tips. If we continue using the tip credit, it allows businesses, it allows staff, it allows them to maximize their earnings with their tips. It allows businesses to hire more staff to be able to continue to serve more customers while still maintaining equitable prices for their customers. We need those customers to come through the door. We need the servers to serve them. We need the businesses to stay open so that we can keep that ecosystem going. Let's not forget that we are also, with these higher wages, yes, they're making more per hour, but if their hours are cut, then we have an issue because now they're not making more take home.
Before we run out of time, and I know you want to respond, but I also want you to remind us in the 45 seconds that we've got left of the history of the tipped worker and where that comes from, especially for servers.
Yeah, so let me be very clear. The restaurant industry will not fail, right? Like, it is going to adapt. There are 7 states that have already eliminated the sub-minimum wage. Most people don't recognize that this is already, no one has repealed it. 7 states have eliminated the sub-minimum wage for decades. Anybody that's ever traveled to California, anybody that's traveled to Nevada, anybody that's ever traveled to Oregon or Minnesota, 20, 30 years, the sub-minimum wage has been eliminated, right? So the fact that the restaurant industry is not going to be able to absorb the rate increases to pay workers a livable wage is a fallacy. It is showing already huge success. And we're happy that they're going to be.
But the law states that employees are paid $16.60 an hour. If they don't make that up, it is required by law that it is paid to them. So they are making a minimum wage. Okay. I think the fallacy here is to call it a sub-minimum wage.
Right, that's where we'll have to leave it, and we'll see what the City Council does tomorrow. My thanks to the both of you, Richard Rodriguez and Christina Gonzalez. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Up next, efforts to make areas around public transit more accessible and affordable. We explore ideas right after this. Chicago has made significant progress to ensure that developments near transportation options around the city don't mean nearby residents get pushed out. That's according to a new analysis from Elevated Chicago that looked at 5 years of what's called Equitable Transit-Oriented Development, or ETOD, policy in Chicago. It found that while the city has made significant progress to maintain affordability and accessibility for residents living near those developments, some neighborhoods aren't seeing the same investment as others. Joining us now are Juan Sebastian Arias, Executive Director of Elevated Chicago, Nina Idamudia, CEO of the Center for Neighborhood Technology, and O.G. Eggleston, Executive Director of the Renaissance Collaborative and a community developer. Thanks to all of you for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
So the report says, as we mentioned, the city has made progress on all of the recommendations in the city's ETOD policy plan. It reads, quote, unanimously adopted by the Chicago Plan Commission in 2021, the plan's 42 recommendations focus on directing investment to historically disinvested communities, preventing displacement in areas with rising housing costs, expanding affordable housing near transit, and creating more walkable, people-centered neighborhoods citywide. Juan, I'm going to come to you first. What are some examples of that progress?
Yeah, thank you for having us again here too. We've seen a lot of progress, and the 3 big successes that I would want to highlight today include policy, innovative investment in programming, and collaboration. And to walk through those, on the policy front, 4 years ago now, the city passed the Connected Communities Ordinance, which was the most comprehensive reform of our land use and zoning laws to promote more equitable, affordable, and accessible development near transit. And in addition to that, shortly after that, the city also put a historic investment in ETOD projects, including investing in an Elevated Works technical assistance program that matched those grants with coaching and support for largely first-time emerging developers to be able to bring their community visions to life. And then the third, yes, and then the third has been the ongoing, sustained cross-sector collaboration. Elevated Chicago, we co-convened this ETOD working group with the city, and that really has been the driver of all this success, bringing together city officials, community leaders, advocates, policy researchers, developers, all around putting this plan into action.
What would you say is still lacking in Chicago's ETOD policy plan?
Yeah, so as you noted, we made progress on all of the recommendations, yet nearly half still have to be fully implemented. So there are some barriers that we still see, challenges we see in our zoning and how our city is zoned and what kind of development we allow to have near transit. To give you an example, it's illegal to build a 2-flat or a 3-flat in many parts, within walking distance of many parts of the city, while it is legal to build a gas station or an auto repair shop. And those are not really aligned with the opportunity that we have in our public transit system. In addition to that, we in our report did look at where we've seen recent TOD development projects, and while we are seeing some more investment and growth happening in the south and the west sides, there's still need for more. We still see opportunity in the far south side, along the Red Line, along the future Red Line extension. And we also see a lot of opportunity around the Orange Line and the southwest side of the city.
Okay. So OG, your project, Abrams Intergenerational Village in Washington Park. It is a housing development, quote, designed to allow older adults to effectively raise and nurture children collaboratively, which sounds important, right?
Yes.
Like if we're talking about intergenerational child rearing.
Yes.
So you received support through the Elevated Works Technical Assistance Program that Juan just mentioned for ETOD developers. What were some of the challenges that you were facing as a developer?
As Juan mentioned, the Elevated Works was set up for emerging developers. I was new to the Renaissance Collaborative as the executive director, and so I needed technical assistance. The organization needed technical assistance. One, funding. There's always a need for funding, and through Elevated Works and the relationships that they were allowed to develop for us, we received additional funding for our projects. Two, partnerships. As a developer, there are very important partnerships that must be established and maintained, and through the relationships and with the emerging groups that Juan mentioned, we were able to establish strong partnerships. And third was through the technical assistance, branding and marketing. As developers, as entities and nonprofit, we tend to have our heads down getting the work done, but we're not promoting and marketing the important work that we're doing. And so through technical assistance, shout out to Rudd Resources who provided that technical assistance for us. It allowed us to develop a marketing strategy, a branding plan to allow us to promote the building and ultimately bring in additional funding for our organization.
So Nina, the report also calls for stronger anti-gentrification protections. Why does more investment often mean displacement?
More investment often means displacement because when we're thinking about neighborhoods that have been structurally put out of place or disinvested in, we're thinking about Black and brown neighborhoods, places where, depending on the zip code, a bank won't make a loan to you, or an investor won't take a chance on you just because of where you want to put your business, which puts the communities, the vulnerable communities that C&T and Elevated Chicago cares about at a disadvantage. So at C&T, we think about what are the structural ways that we can make sure that the hopes and dreams of our community actually is translated into policy and funding that actually helps to accelerate the impact that of solutions that communities already have but don't have the resources to actually see get off the ground.
Tell me more about that. How do we combat this?
We combat it through a few different ways. So recently, Illinois just passed a bill called the Northern Illinois Transit Authority Act, which means that for our three major carriers, CTA, Metra, and PACE, they will be reconfigured into a new governance body. If you've ever taken CTA or any public transit, it's like, oh man, why aren't these things connected? Why can't I walk here to get on the bus? Why can't I make it? Why can't I get north to south very easily without going through the loop? And so this new kind of configuration for a new transit authority, and also to have all those three agencies work together, get people exactly what they deserve. They deserve a transit system that is fully funded, which now it is. They deserve a transit system that allows their grandmother to go to their clinic appointment for their monthly checkups. They deserve a transit system that gets those hourly workers at those restaurants to the places that they need to go in order to get the opportunity that they need to have. And it also gets students to places throughout Chicago so that they have more opportunity.
OG, so beyond housing, what other kind of investments do you think should surround, any additional transit stations? We're going to talk about the Red Line in just a little bit, but what other sorts of investments do you think should go around them?
Yeah, what's important for every community are various resources and assets within the community, place-based. So for instance, what's very important about ETOD are the businesses that are established around the public transportation, as well as health clinics that are important to public transportation. So I think as you add those additional assets to communities, it allows the communities residents to not have to travel far and has the ability to travel within their own community. So I think those are some things that are needed. Also, I think it's very important for additional affordable housing to be developed because gentrification is outpacing affordability. And so as you bring those assets to the community, it allows those residents to gain employment through those assets, et cetera.
Juan, we've got about a minute left, but the Red Line extension just broke ground. 4 new stations will be built. How can the city take advantage of this opportunity to expand ETOD into the far south side?
Yeah, it's a huge opportunity. It's a historic moment in our city's history for bringing transit access to communities that have been left out of the CTA's public transit system. I would say just as we're investing so much money into the expansion of transit, we need to put that matching investment into the community assets and amenities that OG was just mentioning, in affordable housing, in small business supports. And we also need to put in place some strong policies to make sure that as this development is coming, that there is not the displacement that is happening, because that is truly what makes equitable development equitable, when you make sure that the protections and resources are in place for existing residents to also benefit from all this growth and this activity.
Okay, that's where we'll have to leave it. Best of luck to you all. Thank you for joining us. Juan Sebastian Arias, Nina Adamudia, and OG Eggleston. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
And that is our show for this Tuesday night. Stay connected with our reporters and what they're working on by following us on Instagram at WTTW Chicago. And join us tomorrow night at 5:30 and 10. City Council members vote on a push to rid the Chicago Police Department of officers with ties to extremist groups. That and more from City Hall. Now, for all of us here at Chicago Tonight, I'm Brandis Friedman. Thank you for watching. Stay healthy and safe, and have a good night.
Closed captioning is made possible by Robert A. Clifford and Clifford Law Offices, a Chicago personal injury and wrongful death firm that serves the needs of clients in the Chicago area and throughout the nation.